You don't rise to the occasion, you fall into your training. It's one of my favorite quotes because it really does hit home, especially in the performance world. Let's talk about it next. Back when I was teaching marching band, we had these kids doing 40 things at once, playing instrument, hitting that set, trying to memorize their music, and it was really, really hard for them to think in the moment. Welcome to the Balance Blade. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe and drop a comment below. Would really appreciate it. Now, back to the video. There were too many variables for these performers to be able to think inside the moment. Under the lights, under pressure, with judges and with crowds, they couldn't think through every step of the way. They had to rely on training, on reps, on instinct and muscle memory. That was the only way. So we trained in pieces, one count, one set, one sequence, over and over. And slowly they built something that they could fall back on without having to think about it. The same thing applies to you and me. That's because when life gets loud, and the pressure kicks in, you don't get sharper, you level up instantly. You fall to whatever you've been building every single day. If your response is snapping, stressing, and shutting down, that's your training. If your instinct is conflict avoidance, that's your training. If your default is clarity, composure, and execution, that is also your training. It's not just for the battlefield or the sports field. It's for the boardroom, the kitchen, the late nights with your family. It's for the days when it's not sexy, not exciting, just absolutely necessary. Now, let me tell you something. And I say this same thing to my son when we talk about sports. You miss a shot, it's okay. Nobody dies. And I used to say that to my marching band too. In the grand scheme of things, somebody misses a note, who cares? It doesn't really matter. But we are practicing pressure. We are training not just to perform, but to be able to handle pressure. That's why we do sports. That's why we exercise. That's why we push ourselves. It's not because it's just fun, and sometimes it is, but it's because we need to train when the stakes are small, when nobody dies, because inevitably the moment will come when it's all on the line, when someone's counting on you, when the family's hurting, the job is on the line. You don't freeze or fake it, you move because you've built it in. I can remember one trip when I was teaching marching band in a competitive setting, and I had a disagreement with the priest that ran the school, and it was decided that I would not be returning the following year. And very few students or parents knew, but I happened to be riding to this competition with some parents that knew, and they were upset. We had a good relationship. Their kids were great. They worked hard for me. We worked hard for each other. And I can remember riding in the car. We were heading to Indianapolis. And this mom just burst out into tears, and she looked at me and she says, "How are you so calm?" And I really didn't have an answer for her in the moment other than I'm just focusing on my work. I know what needs to happen today. And what happens next week or next year, I'll think about that then. But I have to think about the moment. That was my training because I had spent all of those years prepping and trying to be better. Now, I'll tell you a little bit more as it pertains to fatherhood. You see, when COVID kicked in, there were a lot of people whose lives changed a great deal, and my family was no exception. As a teacher, I was teaching from this very spot here in my basement, and my students were at their homes as well. My kids were upstairs, my daughter, barely 3 years old, and my son, barely 7, on a Zoom call with his teacher. And I can remember my wife, who works at a hospital, and this was during the time when there was a lot of uncertainty. And what did I need to do in order to come through for my family? Well, first off, I needed to handle the pressure. And there were moments when I didn't. I can remember myself sitting right over there, and my daughter was playing on her iPad, and I was just bewildered. I can remember another moment when I found out that my son's baseball season was going to be canceled. And I went into a corner and I wept. I wept like a small child. Now, I didn't let anybody see me, but I did. And I was upset, and I was upset for him. But I knew that when it was time to face my son and tell him what was going to be happening or what wasn't going to be happening, that I needed to be strong for them. And this is something that we as men, we have to bear this. And the way that we do that is we practice pressure. So here's a challenge for you this week. Pick one area where you can train like it matters, something small but real. And I want you to practice responding rather than reacting. Practice getting up with discipline instead of dragging. Practice hard conversations when the stakes are low. Because again, the moment will come when it does matter, when the stakes are high, and when you need to come through. Will you be ready? Let's make sure you land somewhere strong. If you want a practical way to build that, grab my free 5-day tactical reset. It's a simple challenge to help you sharpen your edge, reclaim your focus, and build that day-to-day discipline. The link is in the description below. And if you're ready to go deeper, get on the list to join the Armory. Tools and training for mission-driven men. Don't just read this, train, because the mission won't wait and you're the one built to carry it. Stay sharp, stay dangerous. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time here at The Balanced Blade.